Or if you go further up, he can become as a divine. And that's why we need to work on these three things. We may be of following any religion. We may be following any race. We may be following any political theory, political party. But one thing is common, that we all are a human. And therefore, whenever we want to deal with the humanity or any issue in the world, can we just think beyond religion, beyond politics, beyond race, beyond the country, but as a human being? So this is the crux, the basis of this today's topic. Then if you think of the human being, one of the common point of the human being is that human needs something. He has something in the mind. He's aspiring something. What is he aspiring for? So you realize, aspiring for one thing, it is called happiness. And happiness is the one we always aspiring for. What does happiness means? That can be defined later on. One man may say that, I do not want a family. I want to be alone. Someone say, I need a money. Because of the money, I will become happy. Another person say, I do not need a money. Probably, I would like to stay in a jungle or in the forest. And in the forest with the animals, I would like to say, I will become happy there. But no one will say that, I do not want happiness. The grades of happiness, the sources of happiness might be different, but happiness is the common thing. And through happiness only, we can move further. So what is happiness is? Happiness, if you understand the happiness, then we understand everything. And that's why as a human being, we should always work, aspire for the happiness. Happiness is not belong to what? And then the another topic of the human being comes, that as a human being, we need to understand the nature of the human being. There is one philosopher in the past, he said that the human being is just nothing, this life, this body. This body we have, this is the human being. I have sense organs. If I fulfill my sense organs, the need of sense organs, I become happy. And therefore, the constituents of the human being is just the sense organs. We have 5 sense organs: the ear, the nose, the eyes, the tongue, and the touch. Like a skin. With these 5 sense organs, we get to know, and these sense organs demand something. I want to watch something. I want to smell something. I want to touch something. I want to taste something. I want to see something. And then we go on fulfilling those things. This is called as a human being. And therefore, the happiness of the sense organs is the happiness of the human beings. That's why the human being is just these sense organs or this body. But someone says, no. These sense organs do not think alone. Because these sense organs are connected to one faculty, one constituent. It's called mind. And mind is there. The mind means when the mind always gives the instructions to the sense organs, the senses. The mind says, watch it, see it. The mind says, hear it, you will love it. Mind says, do not listen, just you hate it. And therefore the emotions come part of the whole mind. We become sad, we become very happy. Our day become amazing, our moods get changed because of our mind. And therefore as a human being, we have a mind as well. Another also, the mind develops a faith in someone. Because we feel that, yes, I like this guy, I like this way. And therefore, liking and disliking comes the part of the mind. With the mind is something very subtle, very close to the mind. One more constituent is there. It is called intellect. Intellect is also one thing. Intellect can decide. Intellect can create the ideas. Intellect can write the poetries. Intellect can create the amazing paintings and the drawings. Intellect can get the degree. We can learn something. And therefore, because of the way of intellect, we become sharp. We can start thinking beyond the emotions. And we can achieve the great achievements, great science because of the innovations, because of the intellect. Intellect also helps us to develop the faith in someone or something. With this body, the mind and intellect, almost today's all the philosophers are okay. They accept. Some of them think the body is more important than anything else. Some people think mind is more important. Something people say the intellect is more important. Among these three, the entire philosophers presently they are maybe not fighting, but they are putting their own ways. If you think of the present theories today, economic theory, the psychological theory, the food theory, the political theory, they are based on this concept that the human being is based on these three things. And therefore, they explain about the happiness of these three things. Like for example, if I need something, I would like to grab or get something. And therefore, I want to get something, that I will do anything for fulfillment of that nature. If my body needs something, I will grab it, I will get it. Because my mind says that get it in any way. And the intellect will find the way for that. And when the intellect cannot do it, means that the two human beings can become chaotic. They start fighting each other, and that's why the new entity will come as a state, and they will decide the rules of the law. As a lawyer, as a law, you have to behave yourself. You have to control your thing. You may have a feeling about yourself. You may want to do something, but you cannot do because the law is there. If the only law will be there, the world cannot become happy. Therefore, happiness of these three things are okay. But there is one more faculty, one more constituent of the human being we need to understand. And this is the secret of integral humanism. If you understand this fourth factor, which normally we do not consider, but we need to add those things, that is called soul. We have a body, we have a mind, we have intellect, we have a soul also. In a way, I'm very wrong in saying we don't have a soul, we are a soul. Because we always say that I have a body, I is my nose, my mind, my intellect. Whose intellect is that? That thing is called soul. So our identity is the soul. And that soul we need to understand. And if you understand the soul, then we understand the entire thing. And therefore, like happiness of the body, mind, on intellect, we need to understand the happiness of the soul as well. The happiness of the soul is in the connectivity, in connections. Happiness of the soul is in the holding the things. Because of the soul, we are at together. Because of the soul is all the senses, the mind, the intellect are together. The soul is holder. If we remove that soul, we are dead. Nothing. We want to get buried or cremated. Soul is there. Some people call it a spirit. Different names are there. Different connotations might be there. But the soul is one thing. And therefore, the soul may not be the right in English word for that one. We need to find out something is there that need to be found out. That soul develop the connectivity. My connection with my senses, my intellect, my body, my mind, that happened because of the soul. Because my intellect thinks like a mind and the body together as a me, that is called soul. If I see the picture of me when I was young in a school, everything has changed. But still I say, oh, this is me. When I say this is me, what is that common thing? That is called soul. Even after all those changes, I said that this is me. When my soul leaves the whole body, and people say he has gone. The body is in front of you. What is gone? That gone is called soul. And that's why that soul need to be recognized. But soul is not just as air and some space, but something more than that. That is called connectivity. Very nearest subject, nearest analogy of that one or anecdote of that one is called space. Everything is in the space, but space is more than that. Entire universe is present in the space. Even the slightest, smallest droplet is a part of a space. And the massive galaxy is also part of the space. But still the space is more than that. The space contains everything. If everything will go away, space will remain. Similarly, the space is there, soul also is also there. The soul connects each other, like space connects each other. The soul, if you understand, then you understand everything. Then what is the humanism says? It says that because of the soul, we are connected to each other naturally, harmoniously. Not on the basis of contract, but on the basis of the political theory. We are naturally connected. Two human beings are naturally connected. Two entities are naturally connected. Human being and tree are naturally connected. Human being and the animal naturally connected. Animal and tree naturally connected. Me and the sun naturally connected. Me and the anything, smallest, biggest thing in the world naturally connected. That natural connection, if we start recognizing it, we can start working towards that one. And that's why there won't be any conflict between the two entities. There won't be a conflict between the parents and the children. No conflict between the employer and the employee. No conflict between the two countries. Each human being will start working together. That connectedness start working. That's why the soul connects with the environment to the human being. Soul connects human to human being. And that's why the soul says the entire universe is just integrated to each other. Very integral. And this integrated approach towards the humanism, towards the humanity of the approach, that entire concept is called integral humanism. In a nutshell, individual to society connection, society to nature connection, and for nature to entire universe connection happens because of this that soul. That soul is as every human being has a soul. Similarly, the society also has a soul. The society also has a body. Like just now in the introduction of the Rise Kenya, he said that we are the part of this children of Mother Kenya. So Kenya is a one entity. In that entity, the Nairobi might be one entity. In Nairobi, the small village can be one entity. But all the entities are very natural. The Kenya is a part of Africa, is also an entity. Africa is a part of entire earth, as well as part of an entity. All the entities should sustain. All entities are natural. All entities has a body, that one, and all entities has a soul as well. And therefore, there is a soul of a Kenya, soul of a Africa, soul of a Nairobi, soul of a human being, soul of a Masai Mara, soul of this forest. All have a soul, and all souls are connected to each other. We need to recognize this soul concept, and that's why that connection happens. Because of the connection, the happiness can be developed. Like I said, my tongue says, can we have this pizza? And because of the pizza, my tongue becomes very happy. My mind becomes very happy. Someone offers me some flower and my mind becomes very happy. Someone cursed me and I become very unhappy. Because of that thing, my mind becomes unhappy. I became graduate and my intellect become very happy. I could not solve the problem of the mathematics. My intellect becomes very sad. Similarly, when I connect to each other, my soul becomes very happy. If I disconnect with each other, my soul becomes very unhappy because soul is a part of that connection. How to bring this integral humanism philosophy into practice? Is it impossible? Just theoretic? No. Because it's a natural, it is a practical. We all can experience it. When a mother gives the birth to the child, it is not the intellectual and mind or the emotional happiness or body happiness. It's a pain sometimes. But that connection, because of the connection, that happiness comes. I became a mother. That is called the soul connection. If some accident happens in the Sudan and one guy from the Nepal, he or she becomes unhappy and try to raise some money for Sudan. It is not because of the political thing. They all are quite different apart. But it's called soul connection. One time I was in the UK, was one small boy. And when the earthquake happened in the India, in the Gujarat, and he raised the money from his pocket money. He stopped having a lunch and that money should be, he saved the money. It may be 10 pounds. And someone asked him, you are British, this earthquake happened in India, you never been to India, why you are saving the money for them? He said that, oh, they are mine. I'm connected to them. This connection happens because of that connection of the soul. We all experience this thing, that's why we need to recognize this thing. And that's why it's very practical to understand the concept of the soul. This starts with the certain things. When we start connecting to one by one. One is called family. Our first closest connection is with the family. And in the family, we start realizing this, the soul, the happiness of the soul. Probably, I think, we may realize many things. And slowly, this concept of the family can be enlarged. I remember when I was very young, once in the night time, I was started unnecessarily touching the trees and the plants. Just by a fun, my mother said to me, Ram, don't disturb the plant, they are sleeping. Like a human being is sleeping, we also sleep and we do not like anybody to disturb us. The plants also are sleeping. In our concept also, sometimes we know that even the moon is my uncle. This earth is my mother. This river is my mother. What are these? Nothing but the part of that family, the soul connection. And therefore, whenever I take a bath, wash in the river, I do not see I am having a bath in the river. I always see that I am playing on the lap of my mother. If that feeling comes, it means that that connection is starting. And then I will never try to exploit that river. Because my connection is the family connection. So from my family, I can expand that family concepts. And then I try to sustain that family. And sustainability comes, it means that I could work towards that one, towards sustainability. I will never try to destroy my family relationships, marital relationship. I will try utmost to sustain that relationship. I will always be in the relationship, connection with my parents. If parents are old, it's my responsibility to look after them. And therefore, the healthy family system I will develop. Not only my family, but entire society, my neighborhood can become a family. This type of system will develop. That is one of the manifestation of that integral humanism. Another manifestation of humanism is when you want to preserve each and every specialities in the world. I would like to preserve sustain all the languages, all the dialects. I would like to preserve the tribes, tribal specialities, the art, the culture, the dances, the faiths, the gods, goddesses. I would like to preserve, save it, sustain it. So each and every specialities when I want to sustain, this is also manifestation of that soul connection, integral humanism, because these all the specialities contain that soul, because all these specialities is the natural entity itself in itself. Each dance form is a natural, is art form is a natural, is every dialect is a natural. No dialect, no language is a superior or inferior. Everything has to be sustained. And therefore, sustainability of those things are necessary. And the third thing will be very obvious, connected to second one as well. When I become connected with the nature, nature friendly. I will listen the sound of the nature. I will listen to what the nature needs from me. I will understand what is the difference between the need and the greed. What exactly I want from the nature and what the nature wants from me. I will listen that music of the nature, then I will become understand the happiness of the nature. That is also the manifestation of that soul. For that, the two type of things we need is a practical. The one basically, we need to create the people who understand this integral humanism. We want to create the people who has a complete understanding, the faith and clarity about this humanism. And the second thing is, this path is not easy. And that's why there are some forces, there are some people who would like to destroy this type of harmony in the society. In front of them, we need to stand and defend. And therefore, we call as a intellectual soldiers of that humanity we need for that. If these type of people we can develop, integral humanism will be practically is possible to do it. In nutshell, I will make sure I will just make a note of all those things, all the today's problems, which is present problems, global terrorism, global warming, global recession, economic issues, and the fractured family system. The diagnosis is that the root cause is the human being. And as a human being, if you understand the constituents of the human being, then we'll understand the way and we can solve that problems. And as the constituents of the human beings, we have four constituents: the body with the senses, the mind, intellect, and the soul. And if you work toward the happiness towards all those things, the happiness of all the four constituents are important. The utmost is the happiness of the soul. And happiness of the soul means the happiness by the connections, by connectivity. And that connectivity, if you develop among the entire universe, the world becomes very happy. And for that, this integral humanism means that the entire human being is connected integrally with each other. This is called as a integral humanism. Thank you very much for your patient listening, and I'm open for any questions. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Ram. Just a question. Now, you've said that all the souls, they're all connected, but I mean, you can't say that my soul as a human is the same as, an animal or a tree or, a building. Is there fundamental difference, or are they just all the same?
Good question. Think of a space, basically. The space-wise, the space inside me, the space inside the other, the same. And that's why when the spaces are inside, same, but because of that confinement, the space in me becomes different. Like there are four types of different shapes of the pots. The space in the pot look like a different because of the shape of the pot, not because of the space. Because the shapes may change of the container, thus the space can be changed. Similarly, the building, the tree, and the animal and a human being, the container is different, but the space is same. As a container has a consciousness, building may not have the consciousness. A tree may not have that type of consciousness, but human being as an intellect. Because of intellect, we could think like that. And that's why we could grow. Building cannot create the revolution. Tree cannot create the revolution. Human being can create revolution because of the intellect. Because of that, that human being should understand the souls are common.
Just a follow-up. So because of our intellect, does that mean that we have a duty to protect all the other souls?
Yes. So it's our duty to protect all the souls, all the entities.
Pauline, your hand was up. I'm not sure if it's on my end, but can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I was asking is, he mentioned that the prominent factor is a human being who is the main cause, or should be the genesis of global warming or economic factors and so on. So is this something that you think is inevitable in nature for the human being, or to misunderstand or to use the intellect in the wrong way, in a way that is detrimental to nature itself? So is that something that's inevitable? And if so, do you think it's still possible for us to, start afresh, to rewrite our wrongs and, build upon all that we have seen? Because of course, global warming right now is at a very difficult state to change, but do you believe that we're still capable through our intellect to change it and just to reverse it and just to do better?
Any change is cyclic change, any change. And therefore, nothing is permanent. So whatever is present today, it can be changed and become as positive. So cyclic change always we need to do. There is no linear change, there's also cyclic change. Second thing is intellect is the key. And intellect is connected to two things. If you think of some circle, intellect is connected to mind and intellect is connected to soul as well. And when the intellect connected to mind, that intellect will take a decision according to the mind, and the chaotic can happen. And when the intellect constituents will start connecting with the soul, that same intellect will start taking decisions according to the connectivity, and the harmony will come up. And that's why it is like sometimes in between these two, and that they take decisions. The mind determines, the mind creates some choices, gives some choices, intellect can decide. Soul can give some notion and intellect can decide on that basis. It may happen. All the global warming and everything definitely can be changed when we as a youngsters will work on the policies in the future. When we become a part of it, the 1% of, there's a saying by Toynbee that any revolution can happen with the creative organized minority. Majority always follows, but when the minority, the few people, when are very creative and organized, they think the people can follow. So when we become a part of that minority means few people, 1% or maybe less than 1%, then they can decide and they can change the world. Second part is basically that when you want to remove any darkness, You need not think too much about the darkness. You start making where are the lights, from where light can come. You fulfill the lights in between, automatically the darkness will go away. And therefore, rather than thinking too much about the issues, problems, we start thinking where is the solution. And that solution, if we start to enhance, definitely we can advance. Last point, the good question you asked. Last point is, there is a saying in a sociology that every human being naturally think alike if you allow him or her to think unconditionally. If you condition that mind, but with anything, it may be social, political, religious, or any reason, or economic reason, then we start thinking differently. And therefore, if you that, I will use this nutritionist word basically, that when we have a too much detox, detox the mind basically, that was the word I was thinking of. So if you try to detox the mind, slowly we start working as unconditional. Thank you.
Yes, Maritim.
I don't know if this will make sense, but let me just ask so that I can clear my doubts and everything. First, we've used the word should, or we have said that as humans, we have a duty to take care of other souls. That means that if it's a duty, then it's a certain or an expected standard or an expectation that we should fulfill. Now, my question is, how do we know what is expected of us as humans? Do we get educated, or is it something that is intuitively in us, or something that is innate, that we know that as humans we should do this, or this is what is expected of us? Now, if that is the case, that is, if it is something intuitive, then, and as you've said, we have the intellect and we have freedom of choice, then of what essence is nature? Sorry, of what essence is it to us for nature to allow us to have that sense of freedom where we can go against its expectations? I don't know if you're getting my question.
Yeah, definitely. Wonderful question you asked, Gideon. I got completely your question. The first part of the question was very clear now. First part of the question, I think you're also very clear about that. Is it educated or it comes intuitive, isn't it? That's your question. It should come as intuitive if it is natural. But if it is a conditional, it has to be educated. Unfortunately, we are all living, I am a part of that one also, we are victim of all those things. We grown up into this conditional atmosphere with the all world history, latest history we are going through and we are learned. And because of that, these things to be educated, these things to be learned. And that's why time to time, through education system, through social systems, through poetries, through dramas, through any activity, these points to be educated and nurtured. One more thing I would like to add. Education means not just in giving information. Education means when something is imbibed in you and you start absorbing this. So education means information, absorption, and manifestation. If these three things happen, then that is called as education. And therefore, at present time, I think education is the key to inculcate these things. Through intuition, it may not come because I said our intellect is very, very key, best friend of the mind. And the mind is basically influenced by the surrounding and our past history. And that's why we may not get the proper intuition in this one. Did you get something?
Yeah, I got something, and I don't know. Allow me to follow up on this. You've said that it's very important that we have these institutions so that we can at least get informed.
Yeah.
Does that mean that, of course, as for history, education has been, it's been growing, and in some societies, there has been no or less education at all. So is it that nature foresaw a generation or a period where education will be like well developed so that now everyone or many will get that information of what is expected of them as human beings? And again, as you've said, it should be intuitive. My last question was, again, if nature has certain expectations of us or from us, then why does it give us freedom to either go as per those conditions or even go against them?
Okay. Because nature has given the choices to us. Because they have given the four factors to us: body, intellect, mind, and intellect, and soul. Nature is a natural thing. And natural thing always gives this choice. Then you need to choose. And that's why all the four factors are important. And therefore, this freedom has given to the nature to choose. And then the intellect may go towards mind, and then it becomes a different way. And sometimes the intellect can go to the soul and go to a different way. It's like a fork. This is natural. Intellect to be trained. And that intellect to be trained, for that one, education is necessary. Ki man, hang on, you can enjoy the mind, but just look at the soul as well. This mind is okay, body is okay, but they are very temporary. They may take you something different way. They divert your thing, your whole thing. Look at this as well. And that's why the giving a choice is also a nature. Giving a freedom is also nature. Taking decision is also natural. Intellect is the key. That intellect to be trained through the education. Education doesn't mean that only classroom education. Education means the wisdom. Wisdom means how to take decisions in the life. It's called education. So that way.
Thank you.
I hope that answers your question, right? And do you have another follow-up?
No, I think I'm in a better position right now.
Okay. Are there any other questions, comments to make? Yes, Kanya.
Okay. Mine was, it's based on what you answered to Pauline. So you are talking about how the minority
Can't
are the
hear
ones who can.
you.
Oh, you can't.
Now you can.
Can. Oh, now I'm okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So you are talking about how the minority usually are the ones who, they start the trend. They're the ones who can sway the majority into, moving towards the right path. But is there a point where this minority will move, too ahead and leave the majority behind?
Again? Properly,
So,
I can hear now.
Oh, okay. So I'm asking, when you are answering Pauline, you said that the minority are the ones who can sway the majority into moving towards a certain direction, just a very small group of people. Now, is there a point where this small group of people go too ahead and end up leaving everyone else behind? And how can you remedy this?
Good question. Very good question. There is a possibility if the minority cannot understand the majority. If the minority would like to take the majority with them, so they will always create which is the user-friendly techniques for the majority. For example, you have a TV and you have a remote control. For the majority, the remote control, the switch buttons are enough. They know this, press this one, this will happen. Majority is okay. Only minority will know that the remote sensing technology. And minority knows that how to develop the user-friendly technique for a majority. Then only the minority become the viable. If minority cannot develop the user-friendly technique for majority, then minority will become sway away and majority will become different. And therefore, for this type of revolutions, Always the minority means the few people, those who understand the science and they want to develop this thing, they should always create the user-friendly techniques, systems for the majority. Does it make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Just as, okay, go on, Maritim.
Thank you. Allow me to follow up on what Kanya just asked and what you've answered. All this, I think, or I want to believe, is possible because of freedom. We all have a freedom of choice, right? Like
Freedom.
if nature expects something from us and then we choose the contrary, that means that it is because we have freedom. Is it then?
Yeah, understood. What is the question basically?
Is it then plausible to say that freedom, that which was handed to us by nature, is a very dangerous tool that was handed to human beings?
Good question. Yes, if the freedom is we understand the freedom as only human being handed to from the nature, by the nature to the human being, is it dangerous? But when the human being think, I share the planet with the others, then that freedom is always happy. Because when I think that, like for example, one example I can give you, I have a freedom to move my hands anywhere, anytime. But until somebody's cheek come in between. If I touched my hand with another's cheek, he will say, no, hang on. This is my freedom of my cheek to be present here. Got it? I can see your smile now. So it means that as a nature and a human being also, the nature will say, hang on, I'm here. You have a free to you move your hands, but until you touch my cheek. Got your point? And that's why the nature will resist the human being. By law, if the human mind can understand it, or by understanding the concept of the soul. Better, second thing.
I think that question's particularly funny to the group, at least that has their videos on, because it's something that we've been debating for a whole semester in school. So thank you for your analogy. I think it's helped. Are there any other questions? The people that do not have their videos on, do you have any questions at this point? Okay, I will just assume that's a no then. I do have a few questions to ask if the group will allow me. The first is in relation to integral humanism as a school of thought itself, and how we talk about sustainability. Oh, right. How we talk about sustainability, and how do you think that this school of thought will survive, considering the fact that it seems like a nice thought sometimes, but then realistically speaking, not everybody is nice. Not everybody is all unicorns and rainbows and nice people in general. Everybody is driven by their own self-interest, especially if you're talking about integral humanism as a sustainable school of thought for a large number of people. How do you think this school of thought would compete with, let's say, capitalism or Chinese communism? Yeah, that's the question.
Good. Again, the communism also sometime in some date has come. So when has a birth, has a death. So don't worry about that. Same with the capitalism. Main thing is, if you can develop the present generation, youth generation, young generation with this thought process, this generation will become a part of a policy makers in the future. They will become economists, the lawyers, politicians, teachers, artists, name anything. And in that position, when they become a part of a policy makers, they will start implementing this type of philosophies, the policies, or the basis of integral humanism. And then you will realize they will have a struggle, they will have a fighting, but in that fighting there will be integral humanism. Because of that, the nature, it's the nature of a natural thing. I also, it's a natural thing, and therefore because of naturality this will sustain. How many years it will take, we don't know. It may take one, it may take more. There's a nice story I remember. There was a George Bernard Shaw was having basically the lunch in London with his friend, and his friend asked him, "You were having a nice fish and chips. In London is very famous." And the friend asked him, "George, if you put the fish on the fish, how many fishes are needed to reach to the moon?" The George said, "I think one is enough. It's long enough." And that's why when it will happen, when if we all work for that one. And that's why the key of this one is when the young generation today, they will become a part of the policymakers, because the flexibility lies in thinking, the freeness lies in the young generation. And those when they will raise and they will part of, things may change. If you read the story of communism and how this Vladimir became a Lenin in one small village, created that thought, and the Russia became a communist. If you understand the Mazini, if you understand in the India, the Shankaracharya, the Gautam Buddha, how they spread into the whole southeastern Asia one time. And therefore, the things may change, the society may change, and they can adopt anything. Only we need to do that effort. And all those things, all those people always worked among the youngsters, not the oldies.
Thank you for your answer. I don't know if anybody has a follow-up on that question. I will assume there's no follow-up. Then we'll move to the next question. In the talk today, there was you mentioned a lot about what is natural and the nature. Yeah, we talked about nature and what's natural. The question is, do you think whatever is natural has the capacity to evolve? For example, at a certain point, human beings, and this is if you're going with Darwin's evolution theory, it is said that we were walking on 4 feet, we were walking on 4s before, and then we physically evolved ourselves to reach the capacity to walk on 2s. Similarly, giraffes at a point used to have a short neck, and to adjust to reaching the acacia trees, they had to extend their neck, and now they have a long neck. So there are very many stories about physical evolution. My question is, a lot of times when we ask the question why something is right or why something is wrong, the answer we get is A is right because it's natural, or B is wrong because it's unnatural. And my question is, as the society evolves, does what is natural change? Does it have the capacity to change too?
I don't know about this Darwin theory, whether I will accept for completely or not, but I can accept. He's a very great philosopher and great scientist, basically. But his theory also makes a sense. What is natural, what will sustain is basically, the answer is that which will sustain is called natural. Water, flow of the water, as a liquid as a water, is a natural because it's sustained. When the water becomes evaporated, that evaporation doesn't sustain long. That's why it's unnatural. It's a phase. When the water freezes, it becomes like ice. That ice of the water is also one phase. But if you have a normal thing, then the water is water. That's why we call it the water as water. If you want to see ice, the ice is a natural when it is a frozen only. But when you think of the ice, then ice is natural as a frozen. For ice, the water is a phase, but ice is a natural. Are you getting my point? And that's why when we think that the natural nature is be sustains. If a mother gives the birth to the child, that giving the, after that one, that motherhood will sustain until the child is there. But when the child is not there, the womanhood will always be there. So womanhood is more natural and more sustainable than the motherhood. And more than womanhood, the humanhood will always be more natural because more sustainable. But all have a different phase. If the mother is a system, mother, if you think of mother as a natural, then mother has a definitely child in front of that. That's a natural thing. And that's why more sustainability is a natural. Unsustainability is unnatural. And second thing is, another thing of natural is complementary to each other. I become complementary to each other, then it is a natural. If I become a destructible to each other, contradictory to each other, unnatural. The planets are natural to each other because they're complementary to each other. In the entire universe, every species, all natural, complementary to each other. They depend on each other. They worked with each other. That's why it is a natural. And that's why complementariness, sustainability, these are, we can think of more factors. Also, there's only two factors in the short term I would like to suggest. So these are some factors we could basically list out, which we consider as a natural. Is it too difficult to answer?
Little difficult to digest, but we'll get there. We'll revisit the recording again. Maritim, you have a hand up?
Let me just follow up on that. What then happens when a society terms right that which is unnatural? For example, I'm saying, what happens then when a society terms right that which is not natural? And I'll give a very controversial example. Of course, you have instances where the BTQ community is accepted, it is legal, which, as we all tend to know and believe, it's something not natural, because as human beings, we have to complement each other and there has to be reproductivity. So clearly, that kind of relationship is not natural, right?
Mm.
But then what happens when a whole society sees it as right and correct?
Good question. So a person's, because of the hormones, having his inclination towards the sexuality is natural. He can choose. Human being is there for the reproduction, for that the connections and relation has to creatively develop, also natural. Every person may not think that my entity and my priorities for reproduction, may think or may not think. And that's why, as an existence for anyone, in any individual, with any orientation, we need to sustain, we need to appreciate. There is no need of legality, and that's why in ancient time, it was accepted by the entire humanity. It's not conditioned by nobody as a rejected, as a natural way, because every entity has to sustain. And that's why the one who has any type of orientation should be sustained. That for the relationship, for that one, what are the limitations for after relationship? We always be there. This type of community will always be in minority, within few, very few, in a symbolic way. Like some people have a different type of physical orientation. That person also should sustain. Some people have a mental orientation that people should sustain, should live. They have a right to live. Similarly, they can have a different type of sexual orientation. They should have a right to live in the society. Their usage, their thinking may be different, and therefore they have a right to live. Their usage may be different. Their intention might be different. We cannot expect everything from them. We cannot expect all the reproduction to happen from them. And that's why there are choices for the people. But make sure that with this entity also, other people also should not be victimized. And that's why the people who believe such orientation also should sustain. The other people who have a different orientation should sustain. Different societies, different people have a different orientations and different usages for the society.
Martin, you're good?
Let me leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay, you don't have to leave it at that. I'm sure we're allowing follow-ups in case there is a legitimate follow-up.
What do you mean by legitimate?
Sometimes you're just trying to push forth an agenda, but sometimes it's a genuine question. So if it's the latter, then we can ask.
No, it's about understanding how many things work. Anyway,
Ah,
I'm in a
right.
better position right now.
Okay, awesome. I personally appreciate the fact that that question was answered, primarily because we don't get straightforward answers to that question that we've asked, and we've asked it in many forums before. So we really appreciate Dr. Ram for trying to answer the question for us, and I'm satisfied with the answer, and I hope many people on the call are too. Are there any other questions at this point regarding anything that that is integral humanism related? I keep asking because I don't want to chew into everybody's time. Okay, since there are no questions, I will ask the final question too. We talked about happiness of the soul, and we talked about happiness in conjunction with integral humanism, and how this school of thought is kind of a tool in which we can achieve what we regard as happiness. But it seems as though, like, currently, that construct has somehow been debilitated, in the sense that we don't even know what the correct level of what the correct kind of happiness is. So my question is, and I know that you have said this before, that it takes time, and it's a process that we don't know how long it may take, but clearly there needs to be some correction mechanism. So what is your advice to us at this level, other than to study and pass our exams and get our degree? How do you think we can implement integral humanism into our daily lives? I'm pretty sure while the majority of people on this call are law students, there are students from other faculties too. So for us, it would be coming up with good policies. But as students and as the young generation, what do you think our role is in implementing integral humanism? And just as an addition, so that you get the last word, could you kindly connect Arise Kenya's TAWI to integral humanism for us? That's my question. Thank you.
So the first question, basically, how the happiness can be understood, which happiness is we need to follow or something like that. There's one small measurement for it. Is two words called gross and subtle. The gross is we can see it, and subtle means we cannot see it, but we feel it. The more subtle we go, we understand happiness. Like the happiness of our senses is gross, but happiness of mind is a subtle. For example, as an example, I can think of one. If someone says, "Come to my home for a dinner," and I'm hungry, and the dinner was delicious. My tongue says, "Brilliant, eat that one. You need it." My every body part says, "You need it. Eat it." And before the dinner, he starts scolding me, that my host. And after scolding me, I realized, shall I eat the dinner or not? He didn't touch my body. He didn't touch any of the senses. Therefore, the grossly, I'm okay. But he touched my mind, which is a subtle. And therefore, because my mind became unhappy, I will leave that dinner because it is a gross. So more subtle you go, you become happier. You study hard, regardless of any, you take all the pain to pass you give for your exam. Your body says, come on, rest. Your mind says, come on, go out for a party. But in spite of all those things, you study. And after the study, you pass it. And when you become happy, that is a subtler than the happiness of the mind. And so subtler you go, you will have a different type of level of happiness. The happiness of soul is the most subtle in that way. And that's why body, mind, intellect, and soul, in their presence also, they are very subtle. In that degree, the happiness also subtle. So how to decide the happiness? It is always good that go more subtle than the gross. As a Arise Kenya and our work basically, it's very simple. What we do, anything we do good for society is connected with the integral humanism. Like the one of the questions we asked about the creative organized minority, through Arise Kenya, we developed there's a one sentence called character building. With this character building, with this togetherness, we develop that type of minority, which is very organized way. You must have seen the people in the lines. They're doing yoga, they're doing exercises, flag drill. With this one, they create organized way. They're very creative, new ways of working, new ways of education they have developed. More and more new ways will be coming as per the need. And therefore, with this community, these people, these youngsters will become part of that policy makers in the future. And then they will implement this thing. Arise word comes as a positivity. Arise means the optimism. The darkness has finished and the sun has come up. Is the name of a dawn. And that's why the arise word gives that positivity. And that's why it is that close to this integral humanism. Arise Kenya says that we are one, we are together, connect with each other. And that's why it is also connected with the integral humanism. And that's why I feel this integral humanism can be connected, like you asked the question to me, with the notion of the Arise Kenya. I think more can be explored by you guys, basically. Thank you very much. And I'm here available. We can have a more conversation, only question answer sessions in the next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the session. Kevin, to you.
Good afternoon. On behalf of all the organizers, all the participants, I'd like to take this opportunity to express our gratitude for this event and for your speech. I'm certain that we've all taken something. For some of us, it might be small. For some of us, it might be it might be well attuned with what we already know, and sort of it's going to help us. It's going to help us synchronize our actions in the life that we have. So yeah, we just wanted to express our gratitude for helping us understand these core tenets that I think some of us haven't been exposed to in our cultures and in our philosophies. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. You're now free to leave this call. If you would like to stay back, you could do that too if you want to interact with any of the Arise Kenya team members, the people with their videos on, Dr. Ram. You can stay. Other than